The innermost God and the highest God are the same God. To start my lesson about living the science of mind daily, living spiritually daily, I thought you all might be a tad bit curious to learn about a recent example of my own practice of falling back on this teaching when something happened in my life. So a few weeks ago, I sent out a prayer request to the practitioners. You know how Randy asked us to fill out those little cards, and he says, Reverend Laine and the practitioners will know something in consciousness for you. He's not just whistling Dixie. That's exactly what we do. So I sent out a prayer request because when Terry and I were traveling, about a week into our travel or something like that, we got a message from the computer in our car that was parked in long-term economy parking at the Tampa airport, that our car battery was critically low and we needed to start the car within the hour to charge the battery. Oh, well, that's bad, because we weren't going to be back to our car for over a week, much less within an hour. So, someone commented, well, technology just ruined your vacation. But I remembered that I was living the science of mind. So my request for the practitioners asked them, and this is a quote, "Know with me that our car starts, or the situation is quickly and easily resolved upon arrival as resources flow to us smoothly." And then came the critical steps. Accept it with gratitude and let it go. Now, what did letting it go mean? It meant continuing with the joy of our vacation, because that's what was in the moment for us to do. And, kind of faith just settled over me. And every time we thought of it, we would just remind ourselves, it's going to unfold to our good. We let it go. Just keep going. We practiced, in other words. And so many days later, we landed. We prayed the whole way to the car. It's going to work. Got in the car, turned it over, it started normally, got the new battery installed the very next day. It wasn't truly dead, didn't leave us stranded anywhere. And I texted the practitioners again, TSRW. And TSRW stands for this stuff really works. This stuff really works. So right now in the Essential Ernest Holmes class, several of us are exploring the question, what is the science of mind as expressed by our founder, Ernest Holmes? And we've been reminded that the very essence of the philosophy is the truth that the innermost God and the highest God are the same God. And when we understand that truth, we understand that we have at our center, as our very nature, the qualities of God, the creative power of the universe. But why does that matter, Reverend Laine? Why do I need to know that the God inside me is the same power as what we call the highest power? Why is that important? Because when we really get that concept, we begin to understand that we're not helpless in our lives. We're not subject to the whims of a supreme being on a cloud somewhere. We're not controlled by forces outside of ourselves, and we're not dancing down the road hoping for good luck or the winds of fate to kind of blow in our direction. And we no longer need to superstitiously avoid the black cats. So I see y'all reaching across those black cat cookies and leaving them there. I see it. We don't do that, right? We understand, we can start to understand that we're in the driver's seat of our lives, the director of our personal experiences as we are meditating about that in class. The innermost God within us interacts with the energetic world around us to co-create the things that are happening in our lives. So today, we're going to talk about actually living the science of mind. In classes and here on Sunday, we talk about what we, come here to learn and remember. And this Sunday, I want to talk about taking it to the streets. And man, there's a lot of things going on the streets, right? Life is constantly in front of us. Things are always happening in our relationships, in our jobs, in our health, in a variety of experiences, in the news, in our finances. We're constantly having this wide variety of challenges and things that are happening. We're constantly faced with choices to make, reactions to have, emotions to express, experiences to live. It never stops, does it? Never stops. Life just keeps presenting itself and asking us to show up and express. And the quality of our expression and our responses to all of these things that are happening speaks to our mindset. It speaks to our beliefs, our expectations of how the world works. And the quality of our response is what we are working on as we grow and evolve. So what I also know is that Spirit gives to each one of us the same equal measure of life energy. No one's special. We all have access to Source. The energy that runs through us with every breath is the same, and it is that life energy that we use to move through all the experiences happening to us. Ernest Holmes used to do a radio show. It was called this thing called Life, many, many years ago, and he would begin every broadcast with this statement: there is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. That statement is the rock bottom foundation of our teaching. Let's read it again. There is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. Are you using that power in your life? Always. You are always using it. You are always using this power. We use it every moment of every day. And if we want to understand how we are using it, all we got to do is look at our lives. Around at our lives. Our lives reflect how we have used the power. Think about that. Just kind of in your mind's eye, look around your world and notice how it reflects how you have spent your energy and the choices you have made, the reactions you have had to different things that have happened, and how it has landed you here. And I don't know about you, but I have certain parts of my life where I am so proud of the ways I've used the power in my life, my co-creative power. I'm so proud. And then there are other parts of my life that I'm like, whoa, I need to just tune that up a little bit. Go right back to spiritual mind treatment, right back to affirmative prayer, back to the science of mind to do some more work to clean up my mind and my reactions to what happens, to clean up my life itself. Because what I know is, if we are still breathing, and I can tell you all are still breathing, we have stuff to work on. We have things to tweak or to absolutely overhaul completely. You know, we are in the middle of our own evolution. We say in our Declaration of Principles that we believe in the individual soul forever unfolding. We are still unfolding. And we're either doing that evolving and learning consciously or unconsciously, kind of stumbling through life, right? And I believe that our souls, our highest selves, they don't care how quickly we evolve and heal our stuff. We're either going to wake up in this lifetime or the next. Remember, we talked about that in class this week. You're either going to do it now or do it later, but everyone eventually will do it. The soul is forever unfolding. We've come here to this physical plane in this magic suit to have human experiences, and our trajectory of evolution has brought us to this teaching. That's why you're here. Your evolution brought you here, to these tools, to help you. And we're always around people who are unconscious. Always. People who are still evolving. People we wish would hurry up and grow, right? Hurry up, wake up, right? Well, first we have to look in the mirror and evolve ourselves. As I already pointed out, you're already using spiritual principles and law all the time. The more you understand how to use it, the more often you can actually use it on purpose, use it intentionally, use it in the areas of your life you still want to overhaul mightily. You might as well use it consciously for your good, and that's where affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment comes in very handy. So one of the first things a newcomer to our center realizes is, whoa, these people pray in a very, very different way. Have you noticed that? People are like, wait a minute. Because we work with a power that we call God, and that Holmes talks about in that very quote very differently than most people were taught to pray. You know, most of you have already had at least one class in how to do spiritual mind treatment. Several of you are in that kind of class right now. But even if you haven't, I want to share an analogy for that seems to kind of help it make sense a little bit. So as you know, there are 5 steps to the prayers that we do, and these 5 steps are aligned perfectly to another activity that most of us do all the time: online shopping. Okay. Raise your hand if you've done some online shopping. Okay, awesome. Terry, raise your hand twice. So let's see if this analogy helps, okay? This is a lesson. So the first step of affirmative prayer is when you take the time to recognize the source of all good, or God. So in this step, we take the time to describe the power that we're dealing with. We say things like, God is the source of the good that I desire. We affirm that and remember that. So we take this first step in online shopping too. Let's say I want a new jacket, okay? So since it's my favorite color, let's say I want a pink jacket, okay? So the first step is to recognize the source for this jacket. The first step is to recognize a store website, or more likely Amazon, that carries my pink jacket that I want, right? I may go on to remind myself a little bit about the website or the truth of the website. It's the source of my clothes. It has unlimited clothing. It's a wonderful store. It has good customer service. It's reasonable. It has free shipping, my favorite, right? So I'm recognizing the things about the source. Then the second step of the affirmative prayer is when we remind ourselves of our connection to God, or our oneness with the all. We call that step unification. This is where we say, if God is that, then so am I, right? So in our shopping analogy, I have to connect with the store. I have to become one with it. I have to connect with it online. I have to put in my password. I have identified it as my source. I have connected myself to it, same as in prayer. And the third step of affirmative prayer is to describe the good that I desire. This is where we affirm our lives as if we already have the thing that we want to change our lives. It's the same in the shopping analogy, right? In the third step, we place our order. We declare that this is the perfect jacket for me. We affirm that it is the jacket of our dreams. We realize how great we look in this jacket. We look at the model wearing the jacket and we say, that's what I'm going to look like in that jacket. We see ourselves already having it. The fourth step in prayer is thanksgiving. We accept that our good is ours and we let the gratitude just wash over us. Wow, we all know how that feels in online shopping, right? We accept our purchase. We allow the thrill of hitting the purchase button on our online transaction to send us into glee, right? We know that feeling. And the fifth step is to release and let go. We close our prayer with a very assumptive statement. And so it is. Abracadabra, right? And in our analogy, we disconnect from the website in anticipation of wearing the jacket. That jacket is mine. And so I am in possession of this pink jacket. Even if it hasn't arrived in the mail yet, we know it is ours. That is the feeling you are looking for when you finish an affirmative prayer. That deep conviction that your prayer has been answered even when you don't have the package yet. Sometimes I think we have more faith in Amazon than we do in spirit. Because then we wait. We go on with our lives and we get curious about when the doorbell will ring. We go on and enjoy our trip knowing that our good is unfolding. So as people trying to use Science of Mind principles, we are constantly being given opportunities to go through these 5 steps. And if you aren't comfortable doing spiritual mind treatment, if that's just not there, let's make that a goal for us. Because this particular spiritual practice is incredibly powerful. The divine intelligence within you is the cornerstone of living this philosophy. And your life is your laboratory. Our lives are constantly showing us our growing edges, or the places where we have the opportunity to take another look at how we are using the power, how we are using it every day. You know, I think there's this idea out there that when we're spiritually evolved enough, when we have figured out all this spiritual truth, that we are somehow going to be protected from anything like wackadoo happening in our lives. This idea that truly evolved people don't experience physical illness, or they don't have accidents, their batteries don't die, or neither does anyone else in their lives, right? We think everything is someday going to be all daisies and rainbows if I can just learn how to use this power correctly, if I can just learn how to do spiritual mind treatment. But the truth is that no matter how evolved you become, how well you understand spiritual principle, how fervently you can do spiritual mind treatment, life still happens. Our life remains a laboratory for practicing the science of mind. Something happens and we get to practice. We find ourselves in an unusual situation and we get to practice. You know, most of the time I don't find myself treating for a pink jacket, or something tangible like that. Most of the time I'm treating for peace of mind, for clarity, for a loving heart, or in a given situation, or I'm not imagining a thing, I'm imagining an experience or a feeling that I want to have, a moment of forgiveness or unity or something like that. You know, I was taught when I came into this teaching, and maybe you've heard this, that we start off praying for parking places, and then we move on to palaces, and then on to partners, and then on to peace and poise. We move beyond wanting a thing in our laboratory of creation, and we get to a place of wanting a feeling. That is living the science of mind, affirming our right and perfect place amidst anything the human experience may bring. You know, in the laboratory of our lives, we become more and more aware of how we are using the power Ernest Holmes talks about, and we learn to use it more consciously, more abundantly, more freely, and more joyfully. And when we work with this long enough, we move from thinking about our ability to use the principles and get to a place where we know we can use the principles. What do you know about living the science of mind? Knowing is not real until it's embodied, until it becomes who you are, until it becomes a part of your nature. How many of you know how to drive a stick shift? Most people do, right? So when you were first learning to drive the stick shift, I remember the person teaching me would say, push in the clutch. And I would say, I know. And they would be like, the engine would sputter, and they're like, push in the clutch. I'm like, I know. And they're like, well, if you know, then why don't you push in the clutch, right? But most good teachers don't say that because they don't want to walk home, right? But we know it, but until it becomes a part of our living it, do we really know how to move the clutch. Until then, it's just a thought or an idea or a concept in our heads. But if we keep practicing and practicing that thought or that idea or that concept, it becomes second nature, an integral part of what we do. We finally know it. We finally push in the clutch without even thinking about it. The science of mind is a beautiful thought, a powerful idea, transformational concept. And if we can keep practicing it and applying it, if we can keep pushing in the clutch at the right moment, our engine won't sputter. If we can engage these principles over and over and over in our lives until we know that the innermost God and the highest God are the same God, we will find ourselves actually living the science of mind. And if the engine sputters or the battery dies, we can go back to the power within and practice it. You are a powerful creative being. You are an expression of God unlike any other. Spirit has infused your very being with life itself and the possibility of good and harmony, peace and joy and love and beauty just awaiting your acceptance of it. The only thing that blocks your reception of all these things is the belief that somehow you are separate from it. It is easy to get hypnotized by the chaotic happenings just outside our doors and feel separate from the possibility of good things to unfold for us and for our world. It takes discipline to return to this moment and hold our thoughts in a constructive way. So I invite you this morning to use the power you have been given to draw to you the emotions you want to feel, the world you want to live in, and the things that make your soul happy. Your pink jacket is not only possible, it's on its way. Live the science of mind. Live spirituality daily. Will you pray with me? Here is what I know this morning. What I know is there is a power in the universe greater than I am, and I can use it. I know that for myself. I know that is the truth, and I know it is the truth for each person hearing this prayer. I know that living this way is a practice that sets us free, a practice that lays the road out in front of us with greater clarity. And I am so grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share this teaching, to live it daily, to practice daily. I let go, and I know that this truth meets us exactly where we are. And so it is.